Hey, what's up,
Hi,
guys?
welcome to Cryo Couch. We think 8.
I think it's episode 8.
We're guessing.
Yeah,
Today we're talking about Parkinson's disease.
correct. April, which is the month we're in right now, I believe, is Parkinson's. Yeah, it's Parkinson's Awareness Month. So we just wanted to do a quick little discussion, a little topic on Parkinson's, what it is.
It's April. It's way into April. Sorry. Okay.
What it is, what are the signs and symptoms, what causes
do is they impact primarily your movement. There are a couple of other things that are impacted when you have Parkinson's disease, but primarily movement is the thing that people notice most.
Right. So it's a degenerative disorder of the neurons and nerves. And as far as the cause, unfortunately, we don't know. It's idiopathic, which is just a fancy term for saying we have no clue what causes it. The thoughts are that it is related to oxidative stress, which tends to cause damage to tissues and degenerate them. So that's kind of a similar idea of what happens to people as they age. They have more oxidative stress in their skin, causes damage to the tissues, the collagen, and that's why skin begins to sag. We get wrinkles, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously, beauty methods are to prevent that from happening initially. Same thing with Parkinson's. You want to kind of decrease the oxidative stress in your body to kind of slow the whole process down because there is no cure for Parkinson's, unfortunately. But
right now,
which we hope will change, but obviously the goal will then be to slow that progression of the disease and the degradation, degeneration. So with that being said,
we know it happens mostly for men, and that's just through statistics. So we don't know what significance that has, again, because it's idiopathic and we don't really know the cause. But there are things that we know could contribute to it.
Yeah. So as far as like where it happens, mostly it's in the deep part of the brain where dopamine is produced. That's the biggest kind of component of what happens with Parkinson's and why you have the symptoms you have when you have Parkinson's. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and neurotransmitter is just another fancy word for saying like it's a chemical messenger. So what happens is, and I'll kind of draw because why not? So what happens is you have, this is dopamine, right? It's just a chemical, and these are receptors for dopamine. And I hope so. Sorry.
Go closer.
Yeah, let's try this. So dopamine, as a neurotransmitter, will get sent to a receptor that where it goes into place, and then a mechanism starts from that reception of the dopamine. So what happens with Parkinson's disease is the neurons that produce the dopamine get destroyed, and you have less dopamine in your body. Dopamine is responsible for controlled movements in your body, among a lot of other things. And so that's why some of the symptoms that you might see with Parkinson's include where it starts. Typically, it starts with like tremors, and usually it's like in the fingers or hands, extremities. There's also gait disturbances, ataxic gait.
I need a bug.
Bug on me. There's impaired posture, balance. You'll see the shuffling as well, and it's all related to movement. Slurred speech is another thing that's related to movement because
it's a muscle.
It's a muscle, just like everything else.
You can also notice sometimes a slight impact to mood. Again, dopamine doesn't just do movement; it also sometimes has some mood impact, and it can be seen that these people tend to get slightly more down.
Right. So as far as we talked a little bit about what causes it. We don't really know. Again, the thought is it might be oxidative stress. The other thought is it might be somewhat genetic or hereditary, although we don't know for sure. Maybe the toxins in the air, which is kind of another thought process behind any disease we don't understand. Like Paige said, it's primarily in men, and it's primarily also in people that are 60 and older. It doesn't usually happen in individuals who are young and healthy. I say a lot, and I noticed that the last video. I'm gonna physically.
Well, you're going through your own thoughts.
I'm gonna mentally try and stop doing that. So if I pause and not talk, it's because I don't want to say. So, with that being said,
technique. that they teach when you learn speech class?
Well, I clearly have not taken speech class, so I apologize. But we are going to kind of dive into, so, it's a very tough illness to live with, obviously, and we want to help, provide ways to live with the symptoms or help slow the progression.
Or, also, just get the message out there because it's the month of being aware of Parkinson's, and it's a really important thing that needs a lot more research, and again, things that are idiopathic need to be studied, and we need to figure out what's going on. So
absolutely. So with the treatments, what do people, and you obviously want to follow with whatever your doctor recommends, that's the most important, but usually the treatments circle around the whole concept of dopamine. Levodopa is the medication they typically use, which is L-Dopa, and it converts into dopamine, so they increase the dopamine levels synthetically. One thing that I wanted to touch on is that there are studies out there that show cold exposure, not specifically cryotherapy. This specific study was actually related to cold water immersion, but cold exposure in itself can increase the levels of dopamine in your body by around 250%, which is huge. And in order to, have something like that happen in your body, it actually is, in anyone's perspective, more effective than taking medications and ingesting, and then obviously having side effects. Of course, you want to follow what your doctor's prescribed treatment is, but this is an adjunct, a modality, something you can add into your whole treatment plan to help slow the progression of the degeneration of your neurons.
as he explained before, hold up your thingy again.
There you go.
Thank you. As he explained before, this is the destruction of the dopamine inside, and that's what you're trying to work towards, bringing more of those in. So put more little round things in here.
There you go.
See, so if you add more in here to be destroyed, because again, the disease works on destroying these things, but you have to continuously add them in.
The disease actually destroys the nerves that produce the dopamine.
Okay, well,
but you want to add more dopamine,
yeah, right.
obviously, because
in the long run, because the more of it that it has to go towards, the longer it takes. You can tell. See.
So the other thing that cryotherapy and
I'm a worse drawer than you are.
it's like a bunch of scribbles.
I know, I'm terrible.
It can't. Well, no, I didn't really do a great job either. This is horrible. But it turned into to this. I don't know. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And there goes the But the other thing that cryotherapy has been proven to increase is a cold shock protein called RBM3. And what this protein does is it helps to decrease the degradation of synapses in your neurons.
And why is that important?
Because the degradation or the degradation or whatever, however you want to call it, of these synapses is what causes neurons to die, and you want to try and prevent it, so it slows that whole process.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to talk, and as far as the cryotherapy goes, for someone who, if you are interested in adding it, if you know someone that has Parkinson's, I would say probably 2 to 3 times a week would be great as an additive to what you're already doing with your physician. And
could we attach the article to this video on the bottom somewhere
absolutely.
Too for that cold
Write it
stress?
out.
That'd be good. I think because it's always important to be able to trace back to research, and the other thing is, for those of you who know people with Parkinson's, I'm sure you spend a lot of time trying to look things up and trying to present things to your physician team, your care team, the nurses, and the techs or MAs or people that you work with. Might be helpful.
Correct, Amundo. So I'll add that. That's no problem. And then the other thing that is helpful in its own way, and nothing that's been directly linked to Parkinson's or diseases similar to it, but the infrared sauna is great for detoxification, getting rid of those heavy metals, getting rid of those toxins, and out of your body. You basically just want to clear your body as much as possible because you're on medications and everyone has heavy metals in their body. So that's one aspect. And then the other thing that was really interesting to me, and it has been, and I probably talk about it a lot, but near-infrared is slowly developing in the scientific community to be a bigger impact than most people think. And I think that there are signs pointing towards neuroprotective elements from near-infrared technology. So
from Cryo too.
Correct. And the full spectrum infrared sauna does have near-infrared, mid-infrared, and far-infrared, along with our Soluma light therapy. But obviously, it's not a FDA-approved treatment or anything like that.
For this specific circumstance, because the Soluma is FDA-approved for other things. But
correct.
For this specific circumstance, it's not.
Correct. So, just thoughts. I mean, we just wanted to kind of get it out there in case you didn't know anything about Parkinson's, and obviously, we want to make you aware.
And the other thing we're going to do is in the bottom of this video, we are going to post a few different organizations. We have no ties to these organizations, but a couple places to donate to Parkinson's research. And, it's always really important to spend the time researching these different conditions, and there are going to be a lot on these different videos, and don't get too overwhelmed, but if this inspired you at all, we fully support the organizations that we will list and the other ones that we don't list, but the ones that we list are just the ones that we'll have spent time looking up. So,
the last thing I wanted to talk about was something that one of our clients brought to my attention that I am very interested in, and it's called a PONS device, and they've actually studied in universities the ability for this to help with multiple sclerosis, with Parkinson's, and other degenerative diseases.
Of the brain,
of neurons. And they've had some incredible success and a lot of very promising findings. And it's still under, it's still in the kind of the research stage of things, but it's made by Helios Medical. And something to just keep an eye on, just in case, if you're interested at all, or if you know someone that has Parkinson's. Basically, they give you this tongue type of device. You put it under your tongue or on top of your tongue, and it sends electrical pulses to the brainstem. And you wear it for 20 minutes, I think, a day, and the results have been really great. So just something to keep an eye on.
And we also have no tie to that either. The things that we suggest on here are really just based on research and based on hearing it from directly out of the horse's mouth from people who have these conditions or know people with these conditions. So
Montel Williams had some great success with PONS, from what I hear.
From what's been posted.
Right. Okay, perfect. And I think that's all we have for today. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next Cryo Couch. Enjoy your day. Have a great weekend. Love you guys.
Bye.